I'm Isabella.
I still remember the moment when I watched my mother's so-called perfect world crumble right before my eyes. It was during a live TV interview, and the studio was filled with an air of anticipation. The lights were bright, and the audience sat in hushed silence. As I walked onto the set, every step felt like wading through thick mud. My mother, Amelia, sat across from me, her face a mask of shock that quickly morphed into a cold, calculating expression. She was a well-known parenting influencer, with over 500,000 followers hanging on to her every word about raising children with love and patience. Her blog posts were shared by top parenting magazines, and her latest book was about to hit the shelves. But the truth was, she had 3 children, and I was the one she'd tried so hard to erase. Let me take you back to how it all started. I was working in the ER one night, the chaos of the emergency room swirling around me. I'd been on my feet for 11 hours straight when my phone buzzed in my scrub pocket. It was an unknown number from my hometown. I let it ring. The patient in front of me needed my full attention. 20 minutes later, in the break room, I stared at the voicemail notification. My finger hovered over the delete button. I knew nothing good ever came from that area code. But curiosity got the better of me, and I pressed play. Miss Isabella. My name is Lily Thompson. I'm a journalist investigating parenting influencers who build their brands on lies. I need to speak with you about your mother, Amelia. My heart skipped a beat. She'd found my school enrollment records. According to public information, Amelia only had 2 children, but I was the hidden one. I deleted the voicemail, but I couldn't shake the feeling that my past was about to catch up with me. For 12 years, I'd built a new life, a career as a nurse, an apartment of my own, and friends who knew nothing about the girl I used to be. But now, a stranger was asking me to dig up all the pain and secrets. I remembered the first time my mother erased me. I was 14 years old. It was December 23rd, and she was launching her blog, The Ideal Mom's Life. She needed photos for the header. Isabella, come help me scan these, she called from the office. I was overjoyed. It was rare for her to ask for my help with something she cared about. I carried stacks of family photos to the scanner, handling each one like a precious treasure. I held up our Christmas photo from the year before. My father, Henry, had lifted me onto his shoulders to put the star on the tree. My younger sister, Olivia, was laughing, and my little brother, Ethan, was just a toddler in my mother's arms. We looked like a happy family. My mother took the photo, studied it for a long time, and then opened Photoshop. I watched in horror as she selected the crop tool. Mom, what are you doing? I asked. The composition is better this way. You were blocking Olivia's face, she said flatly. I wasn't blocking anything. I was just standing next to her. But with one click, I disappeared from the photo. After that voicemail from Lily, I couldn't sleep. I did something I hadn't done in years. I searched my mother's name. There she was, the perfect mom, with a huge following, a book deal, and magazine features. I scrolled through her Instagram. Every photo was filled with Olivia, Ethan, and even my father, but I was nowhere to be seen. It was as if I'd never existed. Growing up in our house, I learned to be invisible. On my 15th birthday, my mother was filming Olivia's first ballet recital. Can't talk now, Isabella. This is important, she said. At parent-teacher conferences, she showed up 20 minutes late and told my teacher, I have 2 other kids who actually need me. At dinner, every night, Olivia talked about her day, and Ethan showed off his drawings. I sat at the end of the table, eating in silence, wondering if anyone would notice if I stopped coming down. No one ever did. The worst part was watching my father see everything and do nothing. He'd catch my eye sometimes, and his face would twist with what looked like guilt, but he'd never say a word. Your mom is under a lot of pressure, honey. Just try not to upset her, he'd whisper. I thought if I was just good enough, I'd finally get her attention. I got straight A's, made the honor roll every semester, and volunteered at the hospital on weekends. But when Olivia won a spelling bee, it made the blog, and I wasn't even in the audience photos. There was one person who saw me, really saw me. Mrs. Jenkins taught 8th grade English at Hillcrest Middle School. She had gray hair and kind eyes. One day in the cafeteria, I was sitting alone, no lunch, because my mother had forgotten to leave grocery money. She sat down next to me and slid half her sandwich across the table. Turkey and Swiss. Hope that's okay, she said. A few weeks later, she asked me to stay after class. Isabella, I need to ask you something. Is everything okay at home? My heart stopped. I wanted to tell her everything, but I could hear my mother's voice in my head. What happens in this house stays in this house. I'm fine, Mrs. Jenkins. I forced a smile. She looked at my wrist, at the bruise I'd been hiding under my sleeve. She didn't push, but I saw her write something in a notebook. Years later, I found out she'd tried to save me. She'd filed a report with Child Protective Services, but someone made sure it disappeared, just like I had. I left home in the spring of my junior year. I'd been accepted into an accelerated nursing program with a full scholarship. I ran home, thinking this would finally make my mother proud. But she was in the living room, filming Olivia bake. Mom, I got in. Full scholarship to the nursing program, I said, holding up the letter. She didn't even look up. That's nice, honey. I'm busy. Olivia, stir the batter slower. I stood there for 2 hours, waiting for her to acknowledge me. When the recording stopped, I tried again. Mom, please, can we just talk for 5 minutes? She sighed. Maybe if you were easier to love, I'd try harder. Those words were like a punch in the gut. I packed a backpack and left that night, without saying goodbye. The next morning, she posted a video of a self-care Sunday with my amazing kids, and I wasn't in it. 2 days after Lily's voicemail, I still hadn't called back. I was terrified. What if no one believed me? What if my mother was right, and I was just too damaged to love? But then, during a shift at the hospital, I was checking vitals on an elderly patient, Mrs. Johnson. She asked, "You have kids, honey?" "No, ma'am," I replied. "Family?" I hesitated. "It's complicated." She patted my hand. Complicated means there's a story worth telling. That night, at 11 p.m., I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot, Lily's number on my screen. I'd been running from my past for 12 years. What if running was what was keeping me stuck? I pressed call. Lily answered on the first ring. "Isabella, you've been waiting for this call." "I have," I said. She told me she was investigating influencers who lied, and my mother was on her list. "Why her specifically?" I asked. "Because she claims to have 2 children, but I have documents that suggest otherwise," she said. We decided to meet. I went to my closet and found a box I hadn't opened in 12 years. It was written in black marker. 2009. Do not open. Inside, there were my high school diary, some paperback novels, a friendship bracelet, and a manila folder. My heart stopped when I saw the folder. It was filled with the original family photos, the ones my mother had scanned before cropping me out. There was a Christmas photo from 2008 with all of us in front of the tree, me standing next to Olivia, both of us laughing. And there was an email printed out and folded. It was from my mother to her literary agent, dated March 2012. Regarding the family branding, I want to be clear. I have 2 children. Please never mention the name Isabella in any materials. She is not part of this narrative. We met at a coffee shop. Lily was younger than I expected, in her late 30s, with sharp features and even sharper eyes. She told me about her best friend in college, who'd taken her own life because her mother, also a mommy blogger, had ignored her. "I'm not asking you to destroy your mother. I'm asking you to tell your truth," she said. A few days later, Lily sent me a link to my mother's Instagram. She was announcing an exclusive TV interview to celebrate the release of her book. The photo showed my mother, father, Olivia, and Ethan, all smiling, looking like the perfect family. The interviewer asked my mother, "What's your secret to raising such wonderful children?" "Presence. I'm always there for my kids. Every milestone, every tear, every triumph, I never miss a moment," she said. I slammed my laptop shut. She'd missed 18 years of my life. Lily told me the interview was in 2 weeks. I had to decide whether to keep running or finally stand up for myself. I made lists of reasons not to do it. My mother would call me unstable, a liar. Olivia and Ethan might hate me. I could get sued. But the reasons to do it were stronger. 500,000 people were taking parenting advice from a woman who'd erased her own child. I had proof. I deserved to exist. I called my best friend, Mia, at 2 a.m. Am I crazy for considering this? I asked. What would you tell a patient who'd been abused and had a chance to speak up? She countered. I didn't hesitate. That their story matters, that silence only protects the person who hurt them. Then take your own advice, Isabella, she said. I found Mrs. Jenkins. A quick search led me to her on Facebook. I called her, and her voice broke when she heard my name. I drove 3 hours to her house. She hugged me and told me she'd filed a report about me with CPS, but it had been marked unsubstantiated without investigation. She gave me a copy of the report. On my way home, my phone rang. It was Olivia. Is this really you, Isabella? She asked, her voice high and nervous. She told me she'd always wanted to call, but didn't know what to say. She was worried about our mother's book and felt like something was wrong. Were you really as bad as Mom says? She asked. I told her none of it was true, and that she should ask our mother and watch her face. The next morning, I received a cease and desist letter from my mother's lawyer. She was already building her defense. And on Instagram, she posted a video, looking tearfully into the camera, saying that some people from her past were trying to destroy what she'd built. The comments were full of support for her. I called Lily. She told me she'd contacted the station doing the book launch segment and mentioned that there might be a family member with a different perspective. They were interested, but I'd have to appear live on camera. I decided to do it, but I had conditions. It had to be professional and factual. My mother would have a chance to respond. Olivia and Ethan were off limits, and I'd only state facts I could prove. The night before the interview, there was a knock on my door. It was Ethan. He was 21 years old now, taller than I remembered, and his eyes were red. Madison told me about the interview tomorrow. I had to come, he said. He sat on my couch and told me he remembered me reading him bedtime stories and making pancakes. He said he knew I hadn't abandoned them. He hugged me, and for the first time in 12 years, I didn't feel completely alone. The day of the interview arrived. The studio was smaller than I expected, a modest local station with worn carpet and fluorescent lighting. As I entered, I heard my mother's laugh. She was walking towards the green room, wearing a designer suit, followed by Olivia, Ethan, my father, and her agent, MS. Parker. Olivia saw me and stopped, her face going white. My mother turned and stared at me. For a moment, I saw fear and fury in her eyes before she regained her composure. What are you doing here? She asked, her voice cold. I was invited, I said calmly. Kenneth. Parker looked confused. Amelia, who is this? My mother tightened her jaw. No one, just someone from a long time ago. Actually, I'm her daughter. Her first daughter. The one she forgot to mention, I said. The silence that followed was deafening. The producer appeared and led me to a small room with monitors showing the live feed. Lily was there. You okay? She asked. Ask me in an hour, I replied. On screen, my mother settled into the interview chair. The host, a cheerful woman named Sarah, asked her about the secret to raising wonderful children. Presence. I'm always there for my kids, she said. I snorted. She'd missed so many of my moments. Lily's tablet buzzed. You're up in 2 minutes, she said. I picked up my folder, filled with the evidence of my mother's lies. I walked onto the set. The lights were bright, and the audience murmured. My mother's face went rigid. We have a surprise guest joining us. Someone who claims to have a different perspective on this perfect family. Please welcome Isabella, Sarah announced. I sat down across from my mother. Sarah asked me to explain. I kept my voice steady. Amelia is my biological mother. I lived in her home until I was 17. Then I left because I had no other choice. My mother cut in. She's unfortunately struggled with mental health issues for years. I replied, I'm a registered nurse at St. Mary's Hospital. I have 0 mental health diagnosis. I'd be happy to provide my employment records and medical clearances. I then showed the Christmas photo from 2008, the original and the cropped version. The audience gasped. My mother tried to explain it away, saying old photos get cropped for composition. But then I showed the email. Sarah read the highlighted part. She is not part of this narrative. The studio fell silent. I also showed Mrs. Jenkins' report. My mother's composure cracked. That's a lie, she said. But then Olivia spoke up. Mom, stop, she said, her voice steady, tears streaming down her face. The cameras cut to commercial, and chaos erupted. My mother's agent told her that the publisher was pausing the book release, pending investigation. My mother stood there, frozen, watching her career crumble. Ethan walked over to me and hugged me. I'm proud of you, he said. Olivia sat in her seat, crying. I walked over to her. I'm sorry you found out this way, I said. I've been living a lie my whole life. I had a sister and she made me forget you existed, she said. After the interview, I was trending on social media. Karen's article was picked up by every major outlet. People from all over reached out to me, saying my story gave them the courage to speak up. 3 days later, my mother posted a video trying to paint herself as the victim. But I didn't respond. I knew the evidence spoke for itself. 5 days after the interview, Olivia showed up at my apartment with a box of photos she'd found in the attic. We sat on the couch, and I told her everything. She cried, and we decided to start over. 2 weeks later, my father called. We met at a coffee shop. He apologized, saying he'd been weak and had chosen the easy way out. I told him I didn't know if I could forgive him, but I was glad he'd finally said it. A month after the interview, my mother called. You destroyed everything I built, she said. You destroyed it yourself. I just showed people what you'd hidden, I replied calmly. She said she saw every failure in me, and that's why she'd erased me. I told her I didn't need her apology anymore. I knew I existed, and I mattered. 6 months later, my life was completely different. My mother's blog was gone, and her book deal had evaporated. She'd started therapy, but I didn't know if it was real. She and my father were separated. Olivia moved closer to me, and we were learning to be real sisters. Ethan graduated from college. I got promoted to senior nurse, and my apartment was filled with photos of me, Olivia, and Ethan, with no one cropped out. I still take out the folder sometimes, not to torture myself, but to remember. I've finally learned that I'm not the cropped out girl anymore. I'm the whole picture, and no one can edit me out. I've found my home, and I'm never going back to being invisible.